You are listening to Know and Live It. I'm your host, Laura Hanson-Brexa. Each week I have an insightful conversation with a fascinating person who shares their life mission, determination, passion, principle, or spiritual journey. And today I'm speaking with Valerie Lee, who has a passion for self-sufficiency. She lives it, she breathes it, she does it every day. It permeates her life and her purpose, and I'm so excited that she's here. We're going to talk to Valerie Lee and her passion for self-sufficiency. Hello, Valerie.
Hello.
Thank you very much for being here with me today.
Pleasure.
We are here to talk about your principle that you live of self-sufficiency. And how did you come to know that self-sufficiency was the correct principle that you wanted to live?
Well, I grew up with it. My mother, it was really more my mother than my father, always had trees and a large garden. And I grew up in Southern California, so the weather was great for it. And they also always had a storage too. So it was just a principle they tried to live because it's taught by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's a principle of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So we've always tried to live the principle of self-sufficiency. Not that we aren't all reliant on our Savior. We all are, but he wants us to do our part. So this is a way for us to do our part.
I should have backed up and asked, what is self-sufficiency, the way you see it?
Well, I think, we're all supposed, I would say it's doing the best with what you have. I would call it that, because not everybody is going to live on an acre of land or even a big yard where they could grow things. But everybody lives somewhere, and you can at least have a pot on the patio or out the front door where you grow a tomato or something. So I would call self-sufficiency as trying to do the best with what you've got.
So this means that you don't necessarily have to depend on stores having what you need. You're self-sufficient.
Yeah. Growing what you can, making what you can, saving what you can, preserving what you can. It's all of that. It's doing what you can with what you've got.
Doing what you can with what you got. And you have a mini farm. Tell me what you do with your mini farm.
So we have a mini farm. It's just a little over an acre, and not all of it is used for farm. We have an orchard in kind of the back third, but we also have fruit trees. So that's fruit and nut trees that are back there. But we also have fruit trees that line our driveway and that surround are in our pool area and are in our backyard planters. We kind of have a front section of our backyard that's more like a normal backyard. And then we have fruit trees that grow in our garden. We have a large garden that's fenced off to keep animals like dogs and coyotes, and it doesn't keep out the raccoons or foxes or bunnies, but it does help with particularly our own dog if we have one. So it's fenced off and it's big, but we also have trees growing in there. So we have about 65 trees, and then we also have garden where we grow things pretty much year round because the climate here allows for growing year round. In fact, I would say my favorite time to grow a garden is in the winter and it's all the greens. They grow. A lot of those you can just lop them off and they grow back, and you go back in a couple weeks and lop them off again. Love winter gardening. We also have quite a few grapes and berries. Again, I have raspberries that line my driveway. I've got a strawberry patch that's in my front yard, and I still have a lawn too. And fruit trees that line the front of my house, front of our property. So we kind of grow food everywhere, including in the front planters. I have food and herbs and things like that growing there too.
So when you moved onto the property, what kind of stuff was already there?
Nothing. Well, there were a few cypress trees and I think I have one rose tree that was left from when we moved in, and a large fruitless mulberry tree. That's it. Everything else, well, if there was anything else, we tore it out. Like there were these, I can't even remember it. There were some things we didn't want that managed to survive 2 years of our house being unoccupied.
How long is it taking?
We moved here in 2009. It's taken a long time. It's still taking time. Yeah. As it's not just the land, it's the house and the stuff around it, but it's getting a little improved all the time.
Every day? No days off. So tell me, what does a day in the life of a mini farmer look like?
It's a lot of work, especially in the summer when, in fact, I would say the last month has been some of the hardest. The weeds grow the fastest in the summer, and I also get a lot of production from the stone fruits like peaches and plums, apricots, nectarines, etc. So that's very busy, but it's never unbusy here because I have production coming on all the time. All year there is food to be picked. And the summer fruits, the stone fruits, and when it's really hot, I mean, when they're ripe, and you got to get to work. Luckily, in the winter, like pomegranates can wait a bit and citrus can wait a bit. It's not the same pressure, but it never ends.
About what you mean by process. Tell me about that. Start to finish.
Okay.
The memory is right here.
Well, so when I say process, I have to do something with this. I have like 6 peach trees. So what do I do with the peaches from 6 peach trees? I do give a substantial amount away to friends and whatever, but I will freeze dry slices. I will make jam or jelly. I will dehydrate some of them, and I will bottle some of them in a jar to have later. So that's what I mean by process. I got to do something with it, or make fruit leather, whatever. I eat it, we just eat it somehow.
In some form. Fruit leather. Was it peach that you shared with me?
No, I think it was apricot.
It was yummy.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
apricot better than peach for fruit leather.
If you can tell, we have enough similarities, but Valerie is my cousin. Our fathers are brothers. That's why I know about her and her great efforts. And she has shared her fruit and yummies with me. She also has chickens.
Yeah, I
How
got
many
chicken.
chickens do you have now?
I have about 20.
20?
Yeah.
Chick. So you got a little livestock.
I've thought
So
about getting into rabbits if you want me. I mean, my husband keeps talking about raising a goat or a cow or mm, I'm just not up to that. I don't want to do that yet. I don't even eat that much meat. So a couple of rabbits would probably be great.
a certain person, don't mention eating rabbits. Valerie, you said that on here.
Keep seeing it on Facebook, these other self-sufficient people. They really think it's great. I don't know.
I get little chickens in the mail.
Yeah, or incubate them ourselves. I just bought, tomorrow's my husband's birthday, and I bought him an incubator. So we might be getting into the incubating ourselves. We'll see.
You never know. No. To see how that goes. So, speaking of which, tell me about your failures. What have you learned by failures? What's failed?
Trees die. I didn't notice the apricots were on, and half the tree, the fruit from half the tree has fallen to the ground and is getting eaten by bugs. Sometimes, especially on the citrus in the early years. So one of the amazing things about the Central Valley of California is that it's warm enough to grow citrus marginally. So they kind of have to be babied and protected while they're young. And then some years when, we'll get down into the teens and it will burn branches. Like I had a lime tree that was a mature lime tree, and it killed every branch. And I thought it was dead, but it came back above the graft, and now it's a big, beautiful tree again. So frost is something that can really mess up our citrus, but we can grow citrus and then stone fruits and all the nuts. We have a lot, I don't use pesticides, and so we kind of pay for it that way. I might do diatomaceous earth around on things, but like our almonds, it's like 20 to 25% of our almonds have unwanted friends in them. So, but I know my almonds are clean as well as everything else I eat. So I'm very careful about what I put on them. So we have to put up with some pests, unfortunately. I have vacuums to vacuum some up. I mean, I'll kill them. I just don't want to poison my food or my land. So I'm very careful about that. Any other, I mean, yeah, there's challenges all the time. We had beautiful cherry trees in the front of our property, and we had a cherry orchard in front of us and thought, wow, what a great idea. They can pollinate our trees for us. Well, that orchard got disease. So guess what? I lost all of my cherry trees in the front of my yard. So I'm trying to start over, which I started over 3 years ago. We planted 4 trees. 2 of them are still alive. 2 of them we've had to replace two additional times. So we've planted 3 trees and they're surviving this summer, thankfully. But we'll see. I mean, it's just hard. A friend of mine said, she goes, yeah, people always say you have a green thumb. And her husband will say, yeah, you just don't know how much dies. You don't see what dies. We pull it out and throw it out. Yeah, it happens. It happens to the best of us.
Not for the faint of heart. This is not a weekend thing.
No, no. But another thing someone said one time to me, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. You just do the best you can with what you got.
Dig it up and plant anew.
Dig it up, plant another one, try something else. Like I just keep saying I'm giving up on avocados. I really love avocados. I would love to have avocados, but I have tried. I've protected them. I've tried, and I don't know how many I've planted and they died. But you know what? I'm already looking at some online.
You say, "Oh, it's done." And then you go back.
And then I go back. Same thing with blueberries. I keep trying because I really like blueberries, but it's just, I can't.
Have you ever thought about having a greenhouse?
Yeah, greenhouse isn't the problem. Well, you can't grow an avocado in a greenhouse.
Yeah, I don't know. I just jumped to greenhouse. Not that it would solve your problems.
I have as far as, you can start your plants earlier in the winter kind of thing. But you know what? Our growing season's long enough. I don't need a greenhouse.
Yeah, you live in a greenhouse if you have. You
I
live in
do.
such a hot place.
Yeah, it's warm this time of year. Hey, we're in the 80s this week. It's pretty nice.
Okay.
We can't all live in the Bay Area with that wonderful breeze coming off the bay.
No, but then I don't get to grow as much the type of food you get to grow. So
That's true.
California is the largest agricultural state in the United States. Now everybody knows that.
Actually, I'll even tell you that this is what they say in our valley. They say the Central Valley is the largest agricultural region in California. California is the largest agricultural state in the nation. And the United States is the largest agricultural nation in the world. So we think we're pretty special here in the Central Valley.
Every time you eat an almond.
Yep. And walnuts and nuts are coming from here.
And another question, jumping to, because we're so proud and happy. What does it feel like to look at the finished production line that you have there when you look at your lines of dried fruit or your lines of bottles? I mean, how does that feel at the end?
So it feels great and tastes even better. In fact, I usually display it for a little while. Look at what I've done. I leave it on the precious counter space so everybody can see. Before I move it I stuff it under bed. Anyways, yeah, it's a little braggy, but yeah, that's what I do. But it tastes even better.
Baby brag.
Before we moved to this property, I was getting symptoms of arthritis and kind of other autoimmune things. And my mother, which comes from my mother and her father, anyways, it was definitely inherited. And my health, and another thing I had really bad was anemia. I was always anemic. I exercised, I ate the right things pretty much, but I was always kind of anemic. Okay, I did never have eaten a lot of meat. But after moving here and planting, I think in particular the berries helped with the anemia, but eating cleaner, better food, I have done a lot to reverse those symptoms. I mean, within a few years, I was much better than I was before I started. So it has been great for my health. I think sunshine's good for your health too, and hard work and being in the dirt. It's just good for you.
So good. I'm so glad you're feeling better, doing
Mm,
better, and happy about it,
yep.
satisfied with it. So, all right, we talked about production. Why, at the end, do you go to so much trouble? It tastes better. You feel better. You know you're going to lose some of your crop to pests. So you're counting on that.
Yeah, there's lots of pests.
Pests. Because that's a
Yep.
choice, so you know you're going to lose some of your production. You count on. What else did we cover that you want to make sure we can read?
But you know what? I also have to say, I do a lot of this to share. Like, I don't need 6 peach trees or however many we have. It's something like that. We probably have at least that many plum trees. And I can eat a whole lot more peaches than plums. But we also, another part of this is to be able to share with others. Why plant one if you've got space for 2? And you can share because there are other people who have don't have this, don't have the opportunity for this, don't have the space, don't have the resources to be able to do it. So that's another important part of all that we do is to be able to share and help others. That's a big part of self-sufficiency, I think, being able to share and help others.
What are the spiritual benefits of being self-sufficient?
Well, that's an interesting question. I feel like I'm fulfilling prophetic counsel. For one, the prophets have said we should be prepared. We should, do what we can basically with what we've got. And so I do feel like I'm fulfilling that. I also feel like if something happened and I needed help, I could pray and ask for help with much more faith, having done my best, having done what I could with the resources we had. And I could pray with a whole lot more faith. And I believe the Lord will bless me because of it. And He has blessed us. He's blessed us a lot. I mean, when you see this big, beautiful peach tree full of these most delicious peaches you've ever tasted in your life, you feel pretty blessed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's growing things is a marvelous way to see the hand of God in nature. I mean, it is marvelous how things work. Really is marvelous.
The law of the harvest.
The law of the harvest. It works.
Seeing the same principle in other areas besides growing food.
Yeah. Yeah. From anything. You want to get close to God, study His word, pray, try to serve Him and live like Him. It works. They're sound principles that have lasted for millennia. You want something, you got to work a little for it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're working with the Lord, He does a whole lot. He does a whole lot of it for you. But you still got to work. Having this little farm, it can be exhausting. There are days it's like, oh gosh, the weeds in some area, and I got them, let me tell you right now, because I've been doing other things. I've been really busy with the production part, trying to pick and process food lately. Sorry, I know I'm bouncing a little. And so there's areas that have been neglected because I can't do everything. There's only so many hours in a day. It's rough. It's like, gosh, those weeds over on the side yard. So I just, sometimes you just have to lower your standard a little and just be okay with it when you're really trying to do your best.
Let me ask you about that. When you know you can't do everything, How do you prioritize that? What is mini farming, well, in life in general, taught you about that with self-sufficiency? Because to be self-sufficient, you do have to manage time and things and activities. You can't do all three sometimes. You can't have all three. There's limits. How do you feel?
Yeah.
What can be let go? What has to be done now?
Things scream louder, so you do it. It's like when the food's there, I really do try to save the food. I don't like to see things wasted. Like, it's very bothersome to me that I didn't notice I didn't get out to see that the apricot tree is kind of on this side, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they're ripe and now they're on the ground. I don't like waste. That is that is a problem for me. I don't like it. I feel like it, I've wasted a blessing. God's given me something and I just let it rot on the ground. That is not a good principle. But things happen in life. For instance, last fall, I crushed my kneecap. So there are things that were just very neglected. I did not have a fall garden last year. I never planted one. I had also been out of town for off and on for 2 months previous to my accident. And then I had, a stiff leg for 9 weeks and and then, gradually bending and getting back. So, for instance, the plum trees, a lot of the trees, my husband did trim some of them, but they didn't get trimmed like they needed to get trimmed. And they didn't get thinned like they needed to get thinned. So we have busted branches. But one of the things about having an abundance is like, oh well, it'll produce a little less next year. But I'm not going to feel the pinch because I have an abundance. But it just happens. You just do the best you can. That saying, which when I first heard it sounded so cynical. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. But you just are doing the best you can. That doesn't mean you try to do it poorly. You try to improve, you learn. I'm learning all the time, um, how to do things better. In fact, like I could say, growing strawberries. You'll have this big, beautiful, nice strawberry. I do treat with diatomaceous earth because ants are a problem. That does ants. And I put things like my eggshells in my garden to stop the snails and the slugs somewhat. I do things like that to try and prevent some of the infestations. But strawberries, I have learned this. I mean, I've seen this. They're a little toxic. In fact, that's why you're not supposed to feed dogs strawberries because they have trace toxins like arsenic and I don't know what else. But anyway, so they've actually killed themselves off because of toxins. So I'm learning right now, like they call it permaculture, where you don't just grow one crop. You grow things together or with it that they work together. And then a strawberry plant can last for, you know, a decade or something rather than, in 2 years it just dies off for no apparent reason, just dies. So it's a constant learning process for me. And we do so much, but because we do so much, we don't have economies of scale. And so it's all like with our hands, manual tools. That's why I say we're in the Stone Age. Okay, maybe Iron Age. Phone there, I'm jerking all over. Because we've gone for variety rather than one thing. We'll just have a whole orchard of peaches. No, we've got almonds, pecans, nectarines, all different kinds of plums, apples, because we do all this variety. And the same thing with the berries. We didn't just say, oh, let's just do all blackberries. We could get real smart on it. There's different rules and different ways you need to follow and principles you need to follow on each variety of plant we have. And so it is a constant education. And I have plenty of failure. Plenty. But I always have plenty of food. I have an abundance, so I can live with it.
You've done enough to make you're just like you're have enough. You've accounted for enough failure
Yeah.
that you can.
Because I have an abundance, I can have failure and it doesn't hurt me. I mean, it hurts because you put a lot into this. It's a lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears for that strawberry garden, whatever, and then they're dying off for no apparent reason. Yeah, it hurts some, but you just go on. And I do have an abundance because, and this isn't a giant property. And believe it or not, there's stretches of non-food production places. I mean, if I made the whole thing productive, it's just too much work for one thing, but I mean, you can grow a huge amount and not a big space. I grew up on a third of an acre. My parents had a third of an acre. A big part of it was a pool with a lot of deck and a big driveway and of course a house. But it was amazing what you could do with a third of an acre with all of that still on it to grow a lot of food. You could still grow a lot of food. So people can, even though they don't have big spaces, you can grow a lot.
Be creative. Well, thank you very much, Valerie. Appreciate you spending time with us and sharing what you know about self-sufficiency and your experience.
Welcome. Is there anything else you want to know?
We'll have to come back and talk later another time.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on Know It Live It. Visit knowitliveit.net for the latest scoops, recaps, and more. Remember to subscribe to this podcast so you'll never miss an episode with fascinating people who live what they know.